Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again, and yes, I am on the floor once again, and so today was a little different than yesterday because it was so cold outside today and the snow was really bad, which made it to where, I don't even want to shoot a video. I just want to sit there at the computer, trying to stay warm. And I did go to the house again today, and I actually brought home the sled. I don't know if I talked about it on here, but one of the things that I got out of the hole was a sled. And it's all metal, and it's all rusted and old, and supposedly that might be worth something, or, that's another thing that's been interesting, is that I've been finding items that are related to things going on. And so when I found the axe head, it was literally when I was watching season 3 of AHS and the Axeman came into the show. And so it's kind of interesting that I found that sled yesterday or the day before, and then all of a sudden you have all the snow. So I have sort of a problem too is with my set, because what I'm trying to do is I really want to have a set again, with Marco Dishes Out on Life. That's technically what type of video this is. I really want to have a wide space where I can sit in front of it, be comfortable, and then you have the set where you have all these hang-ups and posters and pictures and all that kind of stuff. And I did make a couple of things. I got a picture of the wallpaper in my old bedroom, and I thought that would be a good way to put that on there, but actually it's not. I printed out the picture of the wallpaper. It's basically like a cork wallpaper, which is apparently really rare and hard to find, and especially this type. I think this might have been specially made or something, and it's really hard to find. But I printed it out, and it doesn't look anything like it. And then I also made 2 snowflakes, which I will show, I think, tomorrow. I made a tall one, which is kind of like a 2-sided vase. I wanted it to kind of look like an Aztec vase or something, where you put blood inside for a sacrifice. I don't know. And so one side has a smiley face, and then the other side has an angry face. And then I have another one that's kind of like an upside down, or it's like a V. It's like the letter V, and it's like an interesting one. So I was thinking, I'll decorate those on the set. And so what I did was I took this box, instead of just getting a giant piece of cardboard, I took this box and I cut it open, and then I measured it out to where it would fit the wooden, I don't know what you call it, the stands at the end of the bed. And and God, it's already starting to hurt my back sitting up against the drawer. So what I did was then I cut out the box to where it would fit the bed length. And I thought, okay, that's how I'll do it. It'll be like a thing that you attach to the bed, and it's just like a little piece of cardboard with pictures and stuff on it. Well, the problem was having to get it straight, because you have these bins in the cardboard since it's supposed to be a cardboard box, and it's very hard to like keep those straight. And so I put all this tape on them, on the openings, and to make it into like a solid rectangle. And then I took another piece of cardboard to make supports to put on top of each crease, where each crease was, and then that's it. And so I tried to tape it up with Sofie, and immediately it fell backwards. It like bent backwards. So and then I just eventually ripped it off. I know that it's not gonna work. So, and I'm tired for some reason. I'm tired and I'm cold. So that's going to make for some... I mean, it's unfortunate, too, because when I make these videos, I like to be at peak performance, which is usually in the morning, but the problem is I can't really shoot in the mornings anymore right now. So, like, I'm always shooting at, like, this time, which is, like, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And that's when, I don't want to shoot things. That's when I want to just relax. So I guess I should get back to the list. We're going to get into some deep territory here about topics that I don't know if they're even interesting to anyone, but I don't really care. Because I just think of it as something fun. Like at the end of each year, you can do a video about the best moments, the worst moments. I also think that it's good in terms of record keeping. Like I was thinking about my birthday, and, something I really wanted to do, as I've said before, is rank my birthdays. But it's really hard to remember which one was for which. Like, the one where I ate snails. Like, I don't remember which birthday that was. And then, other birthdays, like, they're not matched up, and I can't really remember for the most part. I really wish that I'd have kept, like, just a little record, just saying what I did each time. And so that's kind of like what this is, too. It's like a scrapbook. It's like a pictureless scrapbook, although I will put some pictures on the video, which I've kind of gotten lazy about doing. And I'll admit to you guys that it's once again because of the time. If I was shooting these videos in the morning, then I would sit through all of them, and I would, take the time to, put the pictures where they're supposed to go. Like number 10, Batman. And, then you have a picture of Batman. I would do that if I shot these videos in the morning. But I shoot them at this late time, which means that it's going to take a long time to edit, and it's going to take a long time to upload. And so I have to account for all that time. And so there really is no time to, like, go in there and edit for the most part. So, okay. And I did actually think of another dishonorable mention. So, I don't know really if I should talk about it or not, because it sort of turned into a positive thing after there were changes that were made. So once again, we're talking about the worst moments. So I go to the gym 3 times a week, and first I work legs, then I work arms, then I work chest and back. Pretty much. That's pretty much the routine that I have. And for a while in the springtime, this other person who hadn't worked out was starting to work out and telling me that they're going to work out now. Well, the problem was, and it wasn't Safi, because, I've told you guys this before, I trained Safi for like 2 to 3 years. I helped her gain like 20 pounds of muscle. And then, of course, the injury happened and the pandemic happened. And so she hasn't been back in the gym since. So, but technically she could work out here. She always says that she'll work out at home and then she doesn't. So, you just, that's a part of it, is that you have to have it built into your life. You can't just pick up and drop it whenever you want. And so this person, they started to, do a lot of things that led to the workouts not being productive. And, they wouldn't do the exercises right. They wouldn't listen to, like, what should I do to do the exercise right. And then they would see me do the exercise, and then they just pretend like they didn't see that, and they didn't know what to do. And then they pretended like certain exercises are bad for you, which is bullshit. And so there was this one really bad time where, I've done the same like chest exercise for a long time now. I just do a single one and it's perfect. Although I really don't like it. I don't know what my favorite exercises are, because after having that injury, I kind of see exercises differently now. I kind of see them as like, I don't know, like more serious thing. And so I don't really see any exercises as favorite or least favorite. Except I guess I do see some as, I don't like those. So usually I do these dips, which are cable dips. And what you do is you bend over and you press the cable. And because of the diagonal movement, you're working the chest muscle in a really good, effective way. And you're working the whole chest muscle. And this person refused to do that exercise. So basically, what I could either do is do that exercise for myself and then go help this person do some other exercise, or change my own workout, which I don't change at all, and go do something different along with the other person. And so I opted to change it because I thought, maybe this other exercise will be good. And so I went to these seated decline presses, which I gotta say too, like, I was really disappointed in some of the changes that my gym made. Like, they got rid of the seated curl machine, which was my go-to bicep exercise. and it's preacher curls to be specific, and they replaced them with a shittier machine. And so now I don't do preacher curls anymore because the new machine is such trash, and it hurts my elbows, and I don't like it. And they made several changes like that, and they took away a couple of the good chest machines as well. So I kind of thought this one was really good at first, this decline press where you sit and you press forward. But the next week, my elbows hurt really badly the next day after doing the chest exercise. And in fact, they kept on hurting and hurting and hurting. And honestly, guys, that has never happened to me in history of working out. Never, ever, ever have I had any trouble with like knee pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain. Never anything like that. Except for, when I pulled my abdominal muscle. That was the only problem I've ever had in the gym. So, I really didn't like the fact that I changed my whole workout and I started doing this exercise, and then it ended up hurting my elbows. And then, it did not feel good to work out anymore. And it felt like a chore. And then this person would do this thing too where, today this person doesn't feel like working out. And so therefore, I'm not going to work out that day. I'm going to work out the next day. And then the next day they would say the same thing. And so then a whole week would go by and I never even got to work out. And it's like, this is not normal. This is not how working out should be. When you have this built into your routine, you need to do it like this. And so I had to deal with all that. And the worst part was when we would go there and then I would go on the scale. And of course that was another issue too, is because the other person would constantly be like trying to like follow me around. And so I didn't really have any privacy to go on the scale except for like when I knew that they'd leave. And then I would get on the scale, and it was really funny because after like 3 months of working out, no change. Or maybe a little bit added back on. And I thought, this is really not good. Like, this just shows, this working out routine with this other person who, doesn't even take working out seriously to begin with. It's not going to work. And so I had to make sure that I would just be working out myself from then on. And that was a bit of a chore to take care of that as well. And so, and as soon as I started working out myself again, immediately I saw -1, -1, -1, consistently every week. So, I knew that, I was right, and that I just needed to work out myself so that I could take it seriously. And then another thing, this person would irritate and do all these weird things in the gym. Like, he would take his knife in the gym. You're not supposed to have a knife in the gym. And he'd stand there and make weird noises and just constantly talk over and over again, like saying stupid things like, I don't like that machine, I don't like that, when are we going to do my workout, when are you going to work out my muscles? And then afterwards they would sit there and pretend like, I'm not feeling anything from these workouts. I'm not I don't see any changes. And so it's like they're kind of like trying to delegitimize what I'm doing by pretending like because they don't see any results after like 2 seconds of, not even working out basically, that it's not something that actually does anything. So what's funny is that, afterwards I got off like 10 to 20 pounds again. And, but then that, of course, got put on standby with the moving thing. And so, I don't even want to know what I'm going to have to do now when I go back there. I just wish that I could get back into the routine because I really love the routine. I really love the lifestyle of going to the gym multiple times a week, and because it feels like a stimulating thing to do, in the same way that people would go to like a sport multiple times a week so that they could practice playing a sport and then play a game. It has that same type of stimulating activity vibe to it. So now we can get back to number 7. My back hurts. I did put my pillow on the floor, and so I kind of feel a bit better in terms of that. I don't feel numb yet, but my back is still like, it's pressing into this fucking drawer handle, and it's like, ugh. Like, I just want to hold my hand back there, but that'll hurt my hand. Excuse me. So, as continued on with Halloween, fortunately, I do kind of see Halloween as less bad now, simply because I kind of purposefully made Thanksgiving into Halloween part 2. Like I really didn't treat Thanksgiving like Thanksgiving. I kind of just treated it like Halloween, and that made it a lot better. So with Halloween, after having that thing with my knee, I was in deep shit too, because my feet were sore as hell from, standing around, walking around constantly to do all this stuff, going up and down the stairs, and I had to get Safi to get me some gels for my feet because it was so bad that like I thought, I will need some gels, some athletic gels, or else I'm not even going to be able to do anything. Nothing. Like, sorry, but that's just the reality. And so I was basically sleeping for like 4 hours, and then I woke up before everyone else, and I was in my bedroom, and I turned on the movie Casper Meets Wendy. And it was very strangely familiar too, because it was all about how the whole family with Wendy, the whole family of witches, they all have to leave their old house and stay in a hotel so that they can run away from these bad guys. And so it was basically exactly a similar type of situation while I was packing things up. But the real reason why I chose to watch the movie was just because I thought it was fun. And it's a very silly, girly type of movie, but it's a fun movie. And if you can just like put a little bit of your like, type of attitude aside, you can have fun with it, and just watch it like once in a blue moon type thing. In the same way that, I'll admit, I have a lot of guilty pleasures that I won't even admit to on the channel, but some of the ones that I will talk about are like Tim Burton movies like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is a complete terrible trash movie. I mean, there's so much bad shit in that movie that it's pretty bad. And then The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I watch that movie every once in a while just because it's so entertaining in like a good bad way, and then for some reason it's still just like entertaining to me. Like there's something about it. And then Dark Shadows. That's another movie that I think I've seen Dark Shadows like 50 times. Like I had so much fun with that movie, even though I knew it was trash and I knew it needed to be worked on. And I will say too, another reason why I haven't watched Wednesday is because I've seen Wednesday and Dark Shadows. And in Dark Shadows, of course, they did the same type of thing where they took the daughter, Carolyn, and, in Dark Shadows, the movie, she's like a werewolf, and they make it to where she saves the whole family, including Barnabas, and she's kind of like the hero of the movie at the end, and it's like this kind of cringy thing. And so Wednesday, from the trailer and all the things that I've seen and heard, it really seems like a similar type of situation. The only difference is that, I don't know, Dark Shadows is better. Like, just objectively, I think that the show Dark Shadows was better than the Addams Family show, since it's a lot scarier and a lot more like adult centric, and the Addams Family is more like family oriented, and so I wasn't really interested in seeing like a lighter version of Dark Shadows, since Dark Shadows was already really light and mild in comparison to what it should have been. So I still might give it a chance. It's just I'm kind of like on a burnout with Tim Burton and his kind of like fake style. Like, just because you have a dark forest with somebody who has pale skin and they're walking in it funny, like that's not a style. I think that, he used to have like a really unique style, but now it seems like he doesn't really care anymore, and he's just kind of like doing what he thinks is expected. So, I'm not really interested in that. So I'm going to take a drink. And then what I did was, after finishing packing, I went ahead and I went downstairs, and I think I tried to have like a big breakfast. I can't really remember now, just because I don't want to think about it. And for the most part, the rest of the day was just walking around up and down the stairs and packing things up. But really, I was almost done. Like, I had packed everything up the day before, and really all I had to do was help downstairs take things off of furniture so it could be moved, and, do stuff with that, which was all Safi's department. Safi, she is a procrastinator, and she waited until like the last minute to do all that stuff. So, that was kind of stressful. And in general, it was just a very tiresome experience. And it was made harder by, I didn't know what else the house was going to try and do. Like after having that slash across my knee, I really didn't know what else, like, oh, what's going to be next type of thing. Like, I didn't want to see what would happen next. So, what I did was I sort of stood back at a certain point, and I just let the chaos happen, and I just sort of like stood back and was like, whatever. Like, I was so worn out by like just the middle of the day. And then we didn't even have any lunch, because we were just so busy, packing up and everything. And it was made worse by the fact that, over and over and over again, we heard this, BS from the other person about how there had to be a pathway for the movers to move their stupid dolly around. And it was just so laughable to me because it sort of sounded like the movers were incompetent idiots. Like, oh, what, they can't do anything themselves? They have to use this like huge gadget that they wheel around. And so that's the way that the other person made it seem. And so it was just all about like throwing things to the sides to make like a pathway. And it was so hilarious because it ended up where the movers hardly even used their dolly at all. And, they carried tons of shit down the stairs. They disassembled stuff. They did all sorts of things that made things a lot easier. And it was funny, too, because the movers, they hated the stairs as well. Like, just going up and down them, they really hated it. To the point of where, like, they were trying to do things to, like, avoid going up and down them. And it made me think, like, this just shows about the area, how trashed the places are to live now, that they don't have many places where they have these kinds of stairs, because I just think they're normal level stairs. But I guess, to other people, they would be like really complicated to maneuver. And then what I realized throughout the day was that it was another dream prediction situation. And so one of the nightmares that I put into my film was actually the day of Halloween, basically. It was the day of Halloween personified in a dream, which is sort of cool because when I actually shot the dream sequence that I'll describe now, I made it really orangey, like an orange and blue color scheme. And I think it's kind of cool because in a subconscious way, it has like a Halloween-y vibe to it. And so I think it's kind of fun. So in the nightmare, I was in an old house, and I was sort of like walking up to different levels of a house, and on each level and each corner that I would turn, I would see these like settings. So like I would see it's sort of like when you're in a roller coaster, or not a roller coaster, but like a theme park ride where you're sitting there and you see all the different animatronic sets. And so I saw like a 1970s band or 1980s like heavy metal band playing together. And then I saw some woman with like pink Christmas lights and stuff, and then I saw some guy in like Victorian clothes, and I just kept on seeing like these different settings. And it was like there were all these different ghosts who like just stood in their own little settings that were like their designated corners of the house. And finally, I got into the attic, and I was with like a doppelganger in the dream as well. So that was another interesting thing. But then I looked down, and I was in this gross room in the attic, and it was so gross and so dirty, and there was like, it looked like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre when the girl goes into the room and she falls down. And so that's exactly what happened to me. I fell down in the dream, and I was grossed out because I looked down, I had no shoes on. So I was walking in this filth and grossness in my bare feet, and then I fell down, and all of a sudden I started back down on the first level again, and I had to keep on climbing stairs over and over again because I just couldn't figure out a way. Like, for some reason, I couldn't figure out a way to escape the house, and there was no way to get out the front door at all. So the attic somehow was the only way. And so it was very symbolic and predictive in that, you know, it was exactly like that, with like just going up and down the stairs. And then the thing with the falling, well, of course, that happened before Halloween even started, where I fell and slashed my knee open. So, you know, that was all predictive. And that's not a spoiler or anything, too, for the movie, you know, because it's just, I made it different in the movie as well. A little bit. And so, when we got to the new place, and we put everything down, there was no moment of like, oh, it's almost over, we can sit and watch a horror movie and eat like candy now. Because then we had to go back and pick up more stuff. Because I already told you guys, the other person told these people not to take all of the boxes in my rooms. And so I had to take all these boxes myself. And so I was getting those, and I was getting a bunch of other miscellaneous things. And one of the biggest issues was the fact that these evil people, they told us that we had to be out by Halloween. And you know, that they were just completely vague about it. And they didn't say anything about, you know, oh, we're not going to tear it down immediately. You know, they didn't say anything about how, oh, you could come back after Halloween legally in Ohio and get your stuff. So, you know, they purposefully made it vague so that they could basically, you know, like threaten and intimidate us into, you know, doing what they want. And it didn't work with me, because regardless of if we were allowed to or not, I would come back anyway, because, you know, it's my house. You know, it's not theirs. Whether they like to pretend that it is or not, you know, they know what's right and they know what's wrong. And just because they have a piece of paper, you know, that doesn't mean anything. And so we went back there, and we also had to pick up the cat. And it was just so creepy in the evening, because it was all dark, and, you know, everybody else was pretty much gone. And it was just so dark and so creepy and just so, like, uninviting. And we went inside, and, you know, Safi had to do all this extra stuff for the other person, you know, continuously, like, retrieving this one thing that he wanted or something. And finally, oh yeah, and we got some Wendy's. The Wendy's was not very good. They did something wrong. I can't remember. And you know what's really irritating about Wendy's? I don't know if it's just my Wendy's or what, But every single time I get the Frosty, it's always melted. And so it's not even a Frosty. You know, a Frosty is supposed to be like ice cream. You're supposed to be able to eat it like ice cream. And instead, it's always like soup. It's like a shake. I don't like that. But we got our Wendy's and ate that at home while we waited for the other person to get there. And I also started watching an Abbott and Costello movie, which that made it a little bit better. But then we stayed there for such a long time because of the other person. It was so much longer than I had anticipated. And we stayed there until like 11 o'clock at night or more. And finally we left, and I picked up Bernie and I held him in the car while we went to the new place. And then it was really funny because when I put him down in the new place, he just ran right into my room and he hid underneath the bed. and like he was so scared, and he was so like just completely traumatized, you know, because he didn't ever know what was going on. You know, he was really like freaked out. So lastly, on Halloween, I sat down and my feet were killing me, and I had some Oreos and I watched the Abbott and Costello movie some more, and then I went to bed. It was a pretty bad Halloween. It was basically like torture. It was like a workout from hell. It was like all tricks, no treats. Like, it was just the worst thing imaginable. And the whole time, all I could think of was like, you know, the energies inside the house. They made it all the much worse. Because I could tell there was a feeling of anger and deep hatred of the fact that I had learned the truth from this medium, and that I was leaving, because then they wouldn't have any like energy to feed off of with me gone. And so like now, if you go there, if you notice, like, there's a bunch of trees and stuff that are dead and they've fallen over. There's one of these trees, all this bark came off, branches everywhere. There's this one tree where for years and years and years and years it was living while it was inside, like it was sticking through the gate, the front gate. Well, now it finally split apart for good. And it's because the energies in the house need to feed off of something. And so they're feeding off of those trees. And I guess it wasn't enough, obviously, because we all know what happened later on. And I would say that, I don't know, because I don't know, like, the rules for how far spirits can travel and such. You know, I don't know anything about that. But I would suspect, at least, that, you know, there was a lot of energies and spirits and negative entities that were responsible for that crash that happened on the 16th. You know, it was sort of like a, you know, because nobody has ever died at that intersection. Like, there has been like probably 1,000 crashes. Nobody has ever died there until we all left. And so, you know, there you go. So the reason why Halloween was bad was just because it was not anything that you want Halloween to be. It's that simple. Number 6 is not going on a vacation to Texas to meet an actor who I don't know if she'll be at another convention for like 10 years or so. So I'm not going to say who it is. I'm friends with her on Facebook, although she's not very active on there since, she's a celebrity. And so, obviously celebrities aren't very active on social media. A lot of the times it's other people using social media for them. But the last time she was at a convention was 6 years ago in Cleveland, Ohio. And I would have made the effort to go to it, but I thought, like any normal person, I thought, maybe she'll be at a convention next year. Maybe she'll be at one closer to me. Maybe she'll be at Cincinnati Horror Hound. Or maybe she'll be at Indianapolis Horror Hound or something. But then I waited and waited for 6 years, and that's the key with these celebrities, is that you cannot wait. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to wait for next time to see that person. You cannot do that at all, because they'll either die or they'll never go to a convention near you again. Okay? That's what happens. And, like with Sid Haig, Captain Spaulding, I wasn't even planning on meeting him when I went to the Days of the Dead Chicago convention in 2015, 2016. But I met him, and I'm glad that I did, because if I hadn't have, I never would have met him. and how shitty is that? So that's how it is with these celebrities. And, there was another thing, I think it was 2019 or 2020, where, oh yeah, did that woman die this year? Oh yeah, that'd be another bad moment from this year, yeah. In 2020, they said that Barbara Shelley, who is a very famous Hammer horror actress, they said she's going to her last convention, but of course it's in England. And then she's retiring from going to conventions. But they had this really cool service where you could get a personalized autograph ordered to you from her, and even get a video of her signing it. And I wanted to get it, but I'm not kidding you guys. But I waited an hour too late to order that autograph. An hour too late. And so then I could not get her autograph. And then a month later or two, she died. So, and then this year, another celebrity, Veronica Carlson, another Hammer horror actress who I would have loved to have met. I was friends with her on Facebook. She always went to this convention in Pennsylvania that I thought, I'll go there just to meet her. It's only 4 hours away, so there's no harm. Well, there was one year, 2019, I said, maybe next year. And then in 2020, obviously, couldn't do it that year. And then in 2021, I'll just wait till next year. And then in 2022, what do you know? She's dead. So I'm going to take a quick break, since for some reason something's printing, which is either like a ghost printing out a printout or somebody else who knows that I'm doing a video and isn't respecting the fact that I'm doing a fucking video. So, in 2022, this actress died. And it was just really like just irritating because, you know, the distance was a lot better in terms of Pennsylvania versus England. You know, the distance is a lot closer to go to her and meet her instead of going to England on short notice. In fact, you know, I didn't know about that convention in England until that time when it was, you know, too late to get it. So, like, you know, it was very close to when it was happening, whereas with this one in America, I had, you know, known about it for a while because I thought, ooh, this seems perfect. Like, you can go there and meet these people, and, you know, they had other Hammer horror people there, and they had all these interesting people, and it looked like so much fun, and so it was terrible when that happened. And just for another example, even though I don't really have any interest in meeting her again or paying $300 for a picture again, Captain Feminazi, Brie Larson, you know, I took a picture with her for fun because I wanted to see what she was like in person, and I thought it would be funny to get a picture with her. And I literally went to that convention just for her and a couple other people, and, you know, she hasn't been to a convention since. And so, you know, you have 2020, 2021, 2022, that's 3 years. So, you know, you can't wait to go meet these people. You have to go when they're there, and that's it. You know, that's final. You know, you don't wait and say, like, oh, I don't feel like it this time, or oh, I don't like that place. You know, like, so the convention, there was going to be a convention in Texas, or there was a convention in Texas in July or August. And I let Safi know about it in February or January. And then she didn't tell the other person until like May or June, because she thought it's going to be really difficult to tell them. And so, you know, she waited and waited and waited and waited. And, you know, I really thought, like, you know, I thought I gave enough time notice. It was the only thing that I really wanted to do in terms of, you know, I wasn't even going to get myself any Christmas presents or birthday presents this year because I just wanted to spend all my, money that I would spend on a present, you know, on going to this convention, and, you know, so I can meet this person that doesn't go to any conventions. And, you know, that's why, too, I didn't really know what to get myself, and so I got, like, Horror Trivial Pursuit. I got, like, that package thing from that Oregon woman who ruined it and scammed it, and so she ruined the whole fucking plan I had. You know, so none of that would have happened if I had just, you know, gone to that convention in July or August. And so I can't remember when it just turned out that, like, oh, we weren't going to go for some reason. I think it might have been, you know, as soon as she told the other person, it was already like, oh, no, we're not doing that. And so, you know, I kept on, you know, telling Safi all these reasons why, you know, we're supposed to go do this. We're supposed to go on this vacation. And as soon as I would, because I'm really good at debating, I'm really good at arguing, and and arguing in terms of, like, giving facts and evidence over, just saying, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, I don't do anything like that. I just straight up, I give all the evidence, I'm straight to the point, and I'm really good at debating. And so I was always able to knock down every point of excuse that Safi had. And with every excuse that was knocked down came a new excuse. And so first the excuse was that we as a collective didn't have enough money to go to Texas because of gas prices, even though they're the same people who said over and over and over again that, the gas prices are going to go down, just watch, people are having a big fit over nothing. And it's funny too, because by the time that the convention happened, the prices all went down, the gas prices were back to normal. There was never any reason to worry about gas prices. So that was a complete fail, bullshit, and I knew it the whole time. And number two, we were going to split it basically, but it was hilarious because Safi, even though we were going to split it, Safi was like bragging and practically having a party over getting like a huge tax refund. And she said, I can't wait, we can spend this on going on a vacation in the summer. And it was a lie. It was just a complete lie. Because it wasn't, so then that would lead to another excuse. And so, those excuses just kept on coming and coming and coming, and it really pissed me off too, because if I'd had heard about the bullshit, we don't have enough money to go on vacation bullshit, then I would have sold my Bates Motel knife, which I was already planning on selling to help finance my movie. But I would have sold that early, just to cover the expenses for Safi on her going to the convention. So basically, like, it was just a bunch of bullshit excuses. She knew for months and months and months, and then waited until the last minute, because then she knew that, if there was just one little no, then I wouldn't be able to fight it, and it wouldn't be any sort of, like, back and forth for months and months. So, it was also like her secretly, just not wanting to go to Texas. And so then the excuse changed to, we don't like Texas for some reason. And so, we can't go there because we don't like Texas. And it's like, I really don't care what state it was. Like, the whole point of going there is to meet somebody who doesn't go to conventions. And if that person dies, I'm going to be really pissed, because this was the chance to meet them. And so then the excuse changed to, we could have gone if you agreed to fly there. And so basically, then it was like using the fact that, I don't like to fly on an airplane. So, that was like an easy excuse for, we could have gone on the trip if you had agreed to fly in an airplane. It was just bullshit. It's bullshit. They didn't want to do it. And so they made all these excuses. And the excuses just kept on coming and coming and coming. It was so fucking disgusting and stupid. And so what ended up happening is that we didn't go on any vacation whatsoever. We didn't go on any summer vacation. And it's especially irritating now, because looking back, it would have been really nice to have a vacation and go there before September, October, November, December, and all the stuff that happened there. So it would have been a really nice trip to go there for a couple of days, come back, and, that was ruined. And that was denied from us. And then she started using the excuse, well, the other person doesn't want to go. And it's like, well, that doesn't matter. Like, why can't we just go? And then there was another excuse of, like, the cat and his diabetes. And so just excuse. Very irritating, because they would never have used all these excuses for something that either of them would have wanted to do. If either of them had wanted to go to Texas to go to this convention, then there wouldn't have been any excuses. They just would have done it. So, that was very irritating. And another thing about this year, part of the reason that it makes things sort of unique is that I call this year like the opposite year, because everything that I expected to happen, like the opposite, happened. And so, like, everything flipped on its head, and it was a part of, obviously, the energies in the house, everything flipping, and just the worser things happening. So that whole vacation thing, that was terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. There was no excuse for not doing that. And it was like everything was set up. It was the perfect time to go on one. It was the perfect thing to do. It was just perfect. It was like, you're setting somebody up so that they can shoot a score in a sports game, and then they don't take the shot. That's what it's like. It's like in those basketball movies when somebody gets like a shot and they're supposed to like get the last shot for the team, and everybody else has to stand at the sides, and then they say, "Oh, I'm not going to shoot." And they just throw the ball to the side, and they say, well, I can't shoot because my arms hurt. I can't shoot because my elbows hurt. I can't shoot because I'm nervous. Like, that's basically what it was like in a nutshell. Number 5 is dealing with the curse until the piece of brick was finally thrown away. Which, you guys really don't even know, like, how, like, irritating it was, because the other person who had the brick piece after I sent it to her, and I got to admit, and it'll seem like I'm criticizing her, but I would have done the same thing probably, or I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have. She kept it knowing that it was bad. I mean, guys, you should hear the stuff that went on with her. Like, because remember, I kept this little piece of brick for 2 seconds. And I was like, no thanks. I'm not doing that. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And then I got rid of it. I got rid of it after like a couple of weeks. I didn't wait. But she kept it for all these years since 2019, and crazy, horrible stuff happened. She said that her boyfriend at the time, and of course I'm telling her story for her, but she's never done any podcast about it, so maybe she won't ever talk about it. But she said that he would get into these fits of rage, and that he was like, it was like he was possessed. And it reminded me of that thing with that shooting super dumbasses with one of them, almost getting us into a car crash. And it reminded me of that. And she said that he would go into the closet, and he would just stand inside the closet and stare into the closet with the door closed. And when she would go up and open up the closet, he would just stand there with no emotion on his face whatsoever. And she'd ask him, "What are you doing?" And he'd say, like, I need to stay in the closet, or I need to be in the closet. So, and it was because the brick was in the closet. And then she said that, like, she lost contact with a family member. They had a really good relationship, and then all of a sudden they didn't anymore, and like, they don't even speak to each other. And then she said that while she was sleeping next to her ex-boyfriend, the way that he would breathe was like a growling, and she could hear like a growling sound that he was making, like he was possessed by something. And it's like that's just a little bit of it, that's just a little tiny bit. Like, there's so much other stuff she had to deal with. And it's funny because, like, she still kept it because she wanted to use it as a prop for a video for YouTube and Facebook. She wanted to do a series about haunted objects, and she wanted to, keep it just so that she could go, "Hey, look, here it is," and she could dangle it in front of the camera. And I do have to admit, I would have wanted to do the same thing. I would have wanted to keep it until I could show it off on camera. But it's just the fact that, like, all this bad stuff happens. Like, it's the fact that, like, why would you want that near you if you knew that this type of stuff would occur? It's like, ugh. But at a certain point, you kind of get a little used to it. You kind of get attached to it yourself. So, but just waiting for her to get rid of it, it was painful because I really wanted to see what would happen. Like, if there would be some sort of a dramatic difference in, am I going to, have good things happen now, or things going to go opposite and, all turn out good instead of all turning out bad? And I was really excited. And, I just kept on waiting and waiting and waiting. And then we did a Zoom meeting. And she said we couldn't do it because I was sitting outside in the dark. And so the lighting made everything look dark, and it made it look too creepy. And she wanted to have me do it in good lighting. And I thought, like, what the hell? Like, like, don't you want to get rid of this thing? Like, you want to get rid of this, right? Like, you don't want to have this thing around now. And then we even did a practice interview, and it was so bad that it was starting to malfunction. The camera would freeze when we would say certain words. As soon as I said the word spirit, the camera froze for like 5 minutes straight with her, and it was malfunctioning and all this shit because of me actually being connected to somebody who actually has the piece of brick. And finally it ended, and I was like, oh shit. Like, I was like, I guarantee that she's never gonna throw this thing away, and it's always going to be like affecting me or something. And then I was surprised in a positive way, because she did end up throwing it away. but it was because like something so bad happened that, you know, she had to like act, because, you know, it was just getting too out of control. And what happened was, she almost got in a car crash and died because there was a part on her car that was completely broken mysteriously, and she was driving around with this broken part, and she had to pay $500 to get it fixed. And you know, she would have died if she hadn't gotten it fixed. So that made her finally say bye-bye. And so she finally threw it out in the trash. But it was really uncomfortable waiting for that fucking thing to be thrown away. Because I thought, you know, if I were there, I'd take that thing and just like, you know, I'd have to resist like touching it, because I just want to destroy it with my bare hands and just punch it until it's, you know, a million little pieces. But I was so glad when it was finally thrown away. I didn't really notice an immediate change, of course, because the medium said that, you know, the brick piece was not even the majority of my problems, which was pretty frightening to say the least. So, number 4 is a betrayal that happened it happened last week. It happened December 16th, so I already talked about this one on the I've Been Cursed video. If you guys go check that out, it's about the making of I've Been Bitten and the Cursed production, where it ultimately, the production has paused because of, you know, the production being cursed. And what happened was this actress basically led me on for 2 years and said that she really loved the movie, she really loved the script, she was really excited to audition, and she kept on like making excuses and saying, well, oh, I had COVID for a couple of months, oh, I'm busy right now, or, you know, all these, you know, BS excuses for just this stupid like 1 minute video that, you know, you wouldn't even have to put much effort into doing. Like, just so you guys know how easy it is to shoot this video. One day, you know, I shot all the male lines of the video because I wanted to edit all the auditions back and forth, so that you'd see like chemistry on screen, and you'd see how the scene would play out. So one day I came home, had some ribs. I had half a slab of ribs. I ran upstairs. I took about 10 minutes to shoot the audition, and I was done. Like, just 10 measly minutes. Like, it was so laughable. It's just so laughably easy. And so, you know, you can tell that, like, you know, there has to be something else that's going on here. And, of course, I've already talked about before, there was a red flag where, and I'm talking about this because there might have been people who haven't seen that video and who don't want to watch it or something. But her manager is such a dimwit that he said that it's not important to have an IMDb profile if you're an actor, which is probably that's probably like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. I mean, it's almost as stupid as like, I can't find any dialogue on this script. Like, it begs so many questions. And what happened was, in October, I saw that she was doing all these plays, and it was irritating because it's like, oh, you have all this time to do all these plays and theater things. And then I saw a new audition that she shot pop up on YouTube on her shitty little 0 subscriber YouTube channel that nobody likes or cares about. She had a new audition pop up. And it's like, oh, what's this? It's like you have all this time to do this stuff, but you don't have time to do the audition that you told me that you do, like, for fucking 2 whole years. It's like there's just something wrong there. And so then finally, I said, I'm going to put my foot down and kind of like basically give her, it's sort of like a trap, I would say, because it's just kind of like meant to expose her. Like, I knew that probably she wouldn't audition. I could tell. But just because of the way that she acted, the way that, it's so unprofessional. When you audition for a role, you say a couple of things. If you need to clear things out and ask any questions, you do your audition, and then you wait for the response. Like, there's none of this 2-year-long back and forth where you say, oh, I had COVID for a couple of months. Oh, I was busy for a couple of weeks. Oh, I'm working on it. Because that was another irritating thing, was she kept on saying she's working on it. And it's like, no, you're not working on it at all, clearly. So, that's fraudulent. The least you can do is just say, like, oh, well, I'm thinking about it. Because then I could just say, oh, you can think about it for the rest of your life, because you're not getting the role. And so what I did was I said, you get your audition to me by December 15th, or else you're done. And there's all these other actresses, they're waiting patiently for your audition, and they shouldn't have to wait all this time. Because, you're a bitch and you're just acting like a complete unprofessional fraudster. So then December 10th came around, and I messaged her and said, is your video going to be ready? And she said, yeah, for sure. with a bunch of hearts, too. She always liked to send me a bunch of hearts with every message, which was another kind of strange thing, because I felt too like maybe she was trying to like entrap me or something by doing that. I don't know. You never know with these 2022 types. And so finally, predictably, December 15th came around and no video. And December 16th came around, and I messaged her, and then predictably she sent this embarrassing, pathetic response where she said that her manager has all these reasons for why it wouldn't be a good decision for her to do the film. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, you waited 2 whole years to tell me that? Like, your manager isn't puppeting you. Like, you're over 18 years old. You have your own voice and your own opinion. Hopefully you have a backbone. And, you can make your own decisions like an adult. And, you don't need a manager to tell you what you can and can't do. Although they're working for you, that doesn't mean they have legal control over you. And so it was just so ridiculous and disgusting. And, she came up with all these bullshit excuses that didn't make any sense. The fact that she just suddenly raises all these issues because it's the deadline for the video. Like, just think about that. Like, she could have talked about this stuff like 2 years ago. But then again, intimacy coordinators didn't exist 2 years ago. So, she wouldn't have been able to use that bullshit excuse back then. But, she could have talked about this stuff a million years ago. And it's the fact that she waited until the deadline so that she could be like, oh, well, I didn't do it. And also, here's a bunch of reasons why I'm not doing the movie either. It's like there's just something really wrong with what she did there. And so it was it was just like to me, it really was like a betrayal. Because, it's clearly like, this person made a conscious choice to, just say, oh, well, I'm going to waste this person's time for 2 years. And also, and now it's getting numb. It's getting numb and then taking too much time to worry about time. And also, though, she had added this little stupid thing at the end where she pretended like she would work with me in the future. And that she's just like, being passive aggressive, and that she's just pretending so that, I don't know, like, it's just really odd. It really was infuriating. And if I felt confident, I would have reported her. Because, like, to me, like, you should not be allowed to advertise yourself as a serious actor if you're going to do stuff like this. If you're on an acting website, then you either want to do a movie and you audition, or you don't want to do a movie and you don't audition. But what you don't do is waste someone's time for 2 years and pretend like you're doing an audition video. And then at the end, you're like, oh, well, actually, I'm not doing it. Like, there's just clearly something wrong about that. And so number 3 was the questionable crush. If you guys read my memoir, The Questionable Crush, she was a prominent character a little bit. I really think that she was a prominent character in terms of, she was like a subtle character, the way she kept on returning and returning, and it seemed like something was building with her, but it never did. Well, what ended up happening was that she was going to get married in June. And it was interesting, the timing of my book releasing, because it felt like what was going to happen was that I was going to release the book and send it to her, and then she was going to read it and change her mind and not get married. And that's what felt, that felt like it would have happened if not for the supernatural influences and interferences, and it felt like that's what should have happened. I purposefully watched the first season of Californication to give myself some, like, good luck, and to give some maybe, like, to use a sort of like a vision board, to picture that happening, but with me. And it was interesting too, because the date that I had picked for the book's release was actually her birthday in May. And I did that subconsciously. I didn't even realize I was doing that, because I am not her Facebook friend. So it really seemed like it was going to build to something positive with that. And so it was like to me, it was like a doom, like an impending doom. Like I sent it to her. She wanted to read it. And it was like just a complete, like, inescapable feeling, like just like an impending just terror. And so then when the day came, I remembered just thinking, oh, I'm not going to be affected by this. I'm not going to worry about it, because I shouldn't have to worry about it. And so I kind of pretended like it wasn't irritating and bothersome. And then I went to work out, and it was really hilarious, actually, because their wedding was kind of a joke. I mean, it was a huge joke. One of the things was it started off, and there was a horrible storm to start off their wedding day. And it was symbolic. It was symbolic that it should not have happened. It was like in that X-Files episode with the Rain King, where that woman kept on getting married, and then something bad would happen on the wedding day, and it turned out it was that guy who was her, her true love. And so, it was a horrible storm, horrible. But then it cleared up eventually, and so that's when the sinking feeling came in, because I just felt like, oh, it's really happening. Like this big joke of a day is getting worse and worse and worse. And so the feeling started getting worse and worse and worse. And it was like a whole week long of just every day, like the like an inescapable feeling just not leaving, and just continuously like getting worse. And and the other thing was that I thought, she was probably so busy that she hasn't even read the book yet, probably. Or else she probably would have said something. She probably would have sent some sort of message. And so that was terrible. And that kept on going and going and going, and so it was kind of like I don't know, it felt like a game over. Like it just felt like a complete like a bad ending. Like, that's not what should have happened. And it felt like something that, could have been prevented, and something that could have been changed. So that's what made it even worse, is that like it felt like, there should have been some serious course correcting to change that, so that wouldn't finally take place. And honestly, it really is like, I could have put it at number 1 if not for the problem with number 1 is the fact that it happened after number 3. And so like number 1 was worse because it followed something that was just as bad. And so it made the effect even worse. So number 2 is just being forced to move out of my home. And I've already talked about this in depth, in detail, and really just the irritating thing is the fact that, these are people who don't care, who took it. They don't care about anything. They don't care about anyone. They don't care about history. And, it's the thing that, this should not have been allowed to happen. Like, these are historical buildings. It's a historical property, and these places should not be allowed to be torn. They should not be allowed to be destroyed, and turned into something like out of the Stepford Wives, but just in a shittier way, because the Stepford Wives' houses were cool. So, it should not have been allowed to happen. And to me, it really is a disgrace on the community, because I was sending all those letters. I basically pulled a Jimmy from Better Call Saul, and I sent like 50 to 100 letters, talking to all these different people. And the response from the people around here is just like, oh, we can't do anything about that. We can't do anything about that. And it's like, well, why is it that, then you go to these town hall meetings and you see this cunt who formerly owned the property going in there and, getting all these approvals and things. They shouldn't be approving anything that they want to do if they really disagree about these historical properties being taken down. These people need to be in pain. These people need to be in financial and emotional pain for doing what they did. And, there needs to be some serious repercussions for their actions. Like, they are committing acts of terrorism. They are committing acts of cultural terrorism. And they are destroying history because they're a bunch of pieces of shit. And so they need to be held accountable. And it's the fact that the people in this community don't care. They don't care about other people in their community, and they don't care about these historical buildings. And so you see what happens when they don't care. You see the death that happened last week. That's going to be what starts happening now, since you guys don't care. And I'm just going to sit back and laugh because you guys deserve it. The person didn't deserve it to die, but you guys deserve the repercussions. And it's going to be, you think that it's bad now, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And at the lowest point, you're going to be wishing that you had done something differently. And so really, it was a complete slap in the face, because I need that set to film. I need to at least, like, if I had finished filming the scenes for my movie, I would have felt differently probably, and I wouldn't have been as upset. And I would have said, like, okay, like, this is terrible, and, it still would have been pretty bad. I would say, like, 90% is bad. But it wouldn't have been this bad. Like, this is just, it's a disgrace. And, it really shows that, I don't know, it just makes me wish that there weren't any laws. Let's just say that. Because then they wouldn't be very happy. Let's just say that. Like, they'd be pretty upset. And I bet they are pretty upset because, what they did, that's not a normal thing to do. That's not a normal thing that, that's like a really bad action. And the fact that it's like a legal action that they're allowed to do, they can just take people out of their homes and then destroy them and build whatever they want. That's a terrible thing that should not be allowed to happen to anybody. And I think that it's an absolute disgrace, these people. And they deserve hell. And that's exactly what they're going to get. And so, number one, is a betrayal that is so dark and terrible that I don't even think I'll be able to describe perfectly how bad it was in terms of a betrayal. So, last year in September, I met this glue gun girl, is her nickname. And I thought she's pretty cool because she likes special effects and horror. And we talked and we seemed to get into each other quite a bit. But then all of a sudden she disappeared after like a couple of weeks. And I was like, wait a second, like she didn't unmatch me at all, did she? And so I went to her Instagram and I just looked up her name and I found her and she said, oh shit, what the hell happened? And it turns out that on Facebook dating, they unmatch people. Like it's some sort of a glitch that they just don't care about fixing, where you can just be randomly like unmatched from people. Like even if like you both like each other and everything and you don't want to unmatch the other. So, it was sort of like a feeling at first like, oh no, this is terrible. But then, finding out that it wasn't even her that did that, like just really, really shitty. And so there was like a relieving feeling. And we talked and talked and talked for months. And I said, I'm going to take it really slow with this one. Because there was a special feeling about her. But at the same time, too, I had to take it slow as well because she had like a busy schedule. And she was a UPS person. And she said, oh, sorry that I didn't answer you yesterday. I was busy. Sorry I didn't answer you for those 12 hours. I was doing packages and stuff. And so, like, I had to work around her schedule. I didn't really know what time would be good to message her and what time wouldn't be good. And I tried messaging her when I could, and I liked all of her posts, and, I was very interactive with the stuff the stories that she would put up, and, I was on a pretty, like, decent, pathway. Like, I knew that I needed to make things go faster at a certain point, and so, then, right when I started, and there was also another feeling, too, of, like, 2022, there's going to be good things happening with this person. Like, there was a very hopeful feeling, and where we were voice chatting on New Year's, and so it felt like, it was going to be, like, a highlight of the year. And it's, once again, all the things on this list you can look at as things that, they should have been one thing and then the opposite happened. That's the perfect way to describe as just the top 10 things that should have happened in the opposite way. So right when I started to, I was busy too. Like, I was busy trying to get this movie started. Like, I was busy writing. I was busy, beginning production. And I really wanted to, pay a lot of attention to doing that. I didn't want to just rush through, on the production of my film so that I could go talk to a potential girlfriend each day. And I also thought, kind of like cleverly, that, she's a special effects person, and so I can have her do the special effects and the makeup for my movie, and then she'll be on set with me all day long. And so I thought, like, that's coming up, and so, like, that'll be the perfect, it'll be perfect. And so then I wanted to speed things up, and I started messaging, and then that's when a bad feeling came in, because then she stopped answering messages as fast, and it went from not answering after a day to not answering after a month. And so a whole month would go by, and then, she sees the message and answers one message. And then she stopped viewing my stories, my Instagram stories, like all together, for the most part. And then finally I was like, you know what? It was August, like July, it was late August. And I thought, okay, I'm going to check out her Facebook, because maybe she'll be more active on Facebook, and she's just really busy, and so I'll message her on Facebook. And then I go to Facebook and I see that she's been in a relationship since June. And so, like, I can't even begin to describe, like, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like a precision assassin coming up to you and inserting, like, the smallest, tiniest, skinniest blade in history, and just pinching your heart and just stabbing into it a little bit, enough to where you'd eventually die. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like this precise, effective stab. Because the fact that, she could have done the decent thing and said in June that happened. But she didn't do that. She let me think for multiple months, and it would have just gone on like that too, to where I would have been talking to her and thinking, I still have a chance with her. And so, like, just how horrible that is, really, really bad. Definitely, I would say one of the top 10 to top 5 worst things anyone has ever done in history, in terms of me, not in terms of the world, obviously. So it was just a terrible, terrible, it felt like, there wasn't any explanation, and there wasn't any sort of, like, what could I have done? Like, it just felt like completely hopeless and terrible. And you could even see it, like, in my filming. You could see it. There's this one scene where it looks particularly, like, depressing to look at, because, and I won't talk about the scene until I do a commentary for the full movie. But let's just say the scene is like, ugh. Because it's just too real. It's too real and too authentic to life. And so finally, I just messaged her, because I just said, I can't handle even looking at her. I can't handle even her being, like, around on Instagram. And so I messaged her one thing, and then I blocked her. And for months and months and months, it didn't do anything. And the feeling kept continuing, like I was bleeding, and just uncontrollably, like, bleeding on the inside, and just feeling like, like eventually I was gonna die. And so eventually I unblocked her Instagram. And in December, I reached like a breaking point where I finally told her, and I wrote like just a little tiny like just blurb about like the overview of, you know, this, and, you know, F you, bye bye. I didn't say F you, but, you know, I just basically told her the story from my perspective, and it finally was like a little bit of relief, but still, like, that definitely was the worst moment of 2022, because it felt like, you know, especially after the thing with the questionable crush, and after all these other things, and it just felt like a complete shift in the year. It felt like a complete turning point into now everything is going to be terrible and miserable, and you know, this was the starting event, and this was the event that, you know, started things on the course of opposite year in a really, really bad way. And so I'll say this, like, I'll never, ever, ever forget what Glue Gun Girl did. And so that's something too, is that, like, I don't even know, like legitimately, like, the feeling was so terrible that it was just like indescribable. Like, because, you know, I've had these types of feelings before, but nothing compared to this. And so I'll say that, like, you know, she might even be worse over time because the feeling might never go away. And so, like, that whole moment might be like a top 10 of a lifetime type of bad moment. You know, probably won't be number one eventually over time, but it'll definitely be in the top 10 forever. And so that's pretty bad. Like, I don't really think, I'm trying to think, like, I really don't think there's anything in 2021 that was as bad as that. You know, so that's pretty bad. So anyways, please like this video, comment, and subscribe. I guess I'll have to shoot 2 videos tomorrow instead. I really didn't want to, but by the time I'm actually able to shoot a video in this place, it ends up becoming too late by the time I'm finished with the first video. So, goodbye, everybody. See you.